I'm going to my father's, and with great difficulty am I got hither. Yet now I do not repent me of all the trouble I have been at to arrive where I am. My sword I give to him that shall succeed me in my pilgrimage, and my courage and skill to him that can get it. I recited that quote from John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress at my father's funeral last year. From his deathbed, he taught me something profound. He taught me to stand with conviction for what you believe in. I'm standing here today asking you to join me in committing one small act to save our oceans. All life on Earth depends upon healthy oceans. Oceans regulate earthly temperatures and climate, produce more than half of the world's oxygen, and recycle large amounts of CO2 and most of the world's water. My love for the ocean has developed over the past 2 years when I began diving in the kelp forests and exploring along the inter-tidal zones of Cape Point. I've always had a deep connection to nature, but I wasn't so sure about the creatures that lived under the sea. Apart from finding the ocean freezing cold, it was intimidating, daunting, formidable, somewhat like my father could sometimes appear to be. So when he encouraged me to go diving, I was reluctant, nervous, even scared. However, I was soon persuaded, and as I cautiously peered under the surface of the water, I was met by the googly eyes of an inquisitive clipfish staring straight back at me. That's when I realized I might not be the only one who was afraid. After all, I must have looked pretty scary myself in my monster goggles. I fell in love with that little fish, and so began my adventure into an alien world beneath the waves. I discovered that the kelp forests created a protected, safe haven that I could explore, and that the sea, magnificent and powerful, could be calm beneath the waves, somewhat like my formidable father, who is kind-hearted and generous beneath his crusty outer shell. As I began to learn more about the biology of the marine environment, it became more interesting and engaging. First, I learned the names of the different types of limpets. These, pear limpets, grow red algae gardens and defecate, which is a fancy word for poo, at low tide to fertilize their gardens. Who would have believed that such a simple-looking creature was evolved enough to be a gardener? The many-armed starfish have recently become quite abundant in False Bay. Most starfish are known for their ability to lose limbs to predators and easily grow back more. However, this particular species of starfish splits in order to replicate. It actually divides in half and then grows an additional body and additional arms. So this is a crazy form of reproduction. One of my favorite, and what I believe to be by far the wackiest creatures I've encountered, are the sea hares. Sea hares release a thick, dark ink into the water when they feel threatened, so as to allow them time to escape from predators. As I was exploring this foreign new world, my father was ailing. He had been diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer and had come home to die. He didn't want to die in hospital. He wanted to die at home, surrounded by those he loved and cherished. So we nursed and took care of him in the last months of his life. My father did not want to deteriorate, slowly losing all his faculties and becoming weaker and more dependent. He did not want to die the death of 1,000 cuts. He wanted to die with dignity. So he brought an application to court to allow him an assisted suicide. My father wanted to relieve end-of-life suffering, not just his own, but that of all terminal patients. So frail and weak and in pain, he fought to change the law in this country. While my father was confined to bed, I received a call telling me that there were large 7-gill cow sharks in relatively shallow waters. These sharks grow to 2 to 3 meters in length, and they hunt seals and dolphins. And being the size of a rather large seal, naturally, I was a bit afraid. With butterflies in my tummy, I donned on my goggles and fins, and full of apprehension at the start, I relaxed as soon as I was in the water. Sheltered by the kelp, I watched in awe as these magnificent, serene creatures glided by. As I recalled my dive with the cow sharks, it struck me that sharks are the guardians of death in the oceans. You see, sharks take out the weak, sick, and injured, so they don't endure a long, protracted, painful death. Sharks mercifully put an end to suffering, and I began to draw an analogy between the shark's role in the ocean and my father's cause. And yet, 100 million of these magnificent creatures are killed every year. 100 million. It's hard to even imagine such a huge number. Many sharks are killed merely for their fins, for shark fin soup. Once definned in the ultimate act of human cruelty, these sharks are thrown back into the sea, finless, where heartbreakingly they sink and drown. This is just one of the many horrific acts of humanity that are systematically destroying our oceans. Yes, there is a pervasive cancer that is killing our marine life, and we, humans, are the source of that cancer. We're polluting our oceans at a terrifying rate. In fact, it's estimated that by 2050, there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. We're overfishing. We've fished out 90% of the big fish in our ocean. That's right, only 10% remain. When I learned this, I decided I must do something. One small act. So I decided to stop eating fish, and then persuaded my mum to do the same, which proved quite a challenge as she loves sushi. I'm not saying that everyone must stop eating fish, but if you do eat fish twice a week, cut back to, say, once a week. One small act, but collectively powerful. We all need to realize that all life on Earth is dependent upon healthy oceans. As our oceans produce more than half of the world's oxygen and recycle most of our water, with every breath you take, with every drop of water you drink, you are connected to the ocean, no matter where on Earth you live. The court granted my father the right to die. However, he didn't benefit from this victory, as he died only hours before the ruling. This wouldn't have mattered to my dad, as this has set a new precedent from which all terminally ill patients will now benefit. My father taught me that the acts of one person can make a difference, can change the law. I'm going to my father's, and with great difficulty am I got hither. Yet now I do not repent me of all the trouble I have been at, to arrive where I am. My sword I give to him that shall succeed me in my pilgrimage, and my courage and skill to him that can get it. It was too late for my dad, but it's not too late for our oceans. Thank you.